Hey there, it's Julie Hutchison here from Think, Be, Do. And today we are talking about, well, I called it It's a Hard Knock Life. But what I mean is that um, my daughter was singing Annie the other day because she's going for for an audition. And she was going over and over this song and worrying about the notes and worrying about what was she needed to say in her lines. But what she wasn't doing was looking at how she showed up and whether or not she was believable as Annie. And that's what I want to talk about today. And that's why it's called Hard Life, because we need to, as leaders, be able to be believable, and we need people to want to buy into our ideas and be inspired by our ideas or the things that we're doing and to follow us. And if they're not inspired and believe that those ideas and they don't feel that burning desire to come along with what it is that we stand for, then they're not going to do what you want them to do. They're going to run their own agenda, and therefore you're left pushing, trying to push them along rather than bringing them along in a nice, easy way. And so that's what I want to talk about now is, how do you get people to really buy into what you stand for? And she was going on and on about, I need to learn these words. And I said, Kirsty, that's her name, Kirsty, it's not about the words that you say. And it's not quite true. There are some of the words that you say, but it's not just about that. It's about the belief that people have in you, that you have three things. And they're the three things that I want to talk about. And that is that you have a vision, you have clarity. They're all three C's actually. Clarity of vision. You know where you're going or where you want to go. Okay, or where you want them to go. So first of all, there's clarity. And secondly, there's congruence in what you say you want. Now, I'm going to go into these, so I won't kill my surprise, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. So congruence. You need to be congruent with what you say and what you do, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to people and they can't quite work out where you're coming from. So you're not believable, you're not trustworthy. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And the other thing is that you need to have an energy behind it. You need to have conviction, because if you say the right words, you've got a clarity of vision, but you rely just on those words and not the way in which you're showing up and the energy and the confidence and the conviction that you have, and then the behaviors, as we've said, are aligned. Then if you don't have it, then people are going to wonder what on earth's going on, because it doesn't look like you believe it. Why should they? And therefore, you're not going to have the result that you want. So I want to talk about these three areas of clarity. I probably did them in the wrong order, actually. But clarity, I'm going to do clarity, conviction, and congruence. Okay, so let's talk about clarity first, because that's the easy one. And that is like, where am I going? And you might think this is pretty obvious. However, when you're busy and in the day-to-day of what you're doing, there's a lot of stuff in your head, and it's very, very easy to just do. And not only is it easy to be getting on with stuff, it's also easy to have stuff floating in your mind that you understand, that you know and you want. So one bit, you're not even thinking about it and you're doing too much. So no way is anybody going to know where you're going and what you're thinking. The other one is that it is in there, but it's not coming out. So it's not actually coming out for anybody else. So nobody hears what you have to say, or nobody knows what your vision is. So they're like, as the old proverbial says, they're like little mushrooms kept in the dark for one reason or another. And therefore, again, nobody can follow you, because you haven't articulated what is it that I stand for and given them a chance to either agree with you or not. So this clarity of your vision for yourself, first of all, making sure you know what it is, and take yourself out of that grind, that daily grind, and make sure that you have a plan, have a vision, and it links to, if you're in an organization, it links to the bigger vision of the business. That would be useful, wouldn't it? I state the obvious, but there you go. And so first of all, you've got to have one yourself, and two, you've got to articulate it. Okay. And then let's talk about conviction. Now, I'm talking to you here because I'm quite passionate about what I'm talking about. So perhaps I'm a little bit animated, and I'm saying it like I mean it, which is the point that I'm meaning here, is that if we've got the vision, or we've got the plan, or we've got our idea, whatever it is, great, we've got it in here and we tell people about it. But unless we tell people about it in a way that shows how much we mean it and shows our energy for that, then again, they're going to look at it and think, well, it's he or she is saying the right words, but I'm not entirely sure. Do they mean it? Do they actually mean it? Or are they just saying what the boss wants them to say? Which takes me back to an example when I was in policing, when, there was always that, oh, don't shoot the messenger. I don't really agree with it, but that's what the boss says. And that's the problem. That's just like absolute nightmare for, a team trying to buy into something, because they know you don't buy into it. So you've got to have the conviction of what you're telling them. And if you don't have the conviction, like, say, for example, it is something where, it's a bit wider vision and you're thinking, I'm not so sure. Well, your job is to be able to translate that into something you can be sure about and we can have the energy for. Because otherwise, if you don't have the energy for it, how on earth are you going to get them to have an energy for it? Anybody else, whether they're your team or whether your peers or anybody, if you want to convey a message and you want people to say yes to you, if you don't have the energy and the conviction for it, then, you're on a losing streak already. Does that make sense? If it does make sense and you're listening live, please say hello and yes, or if it doesn't, then say no. By all means. Okay. And the last one is probably my pet hate. And I want to take you back to a time when I was a lot younger, when I worked in a bread manufacturing company. They shall not be named. You could probably work it out from my CV, but anyway. So I worked in this massive bread company, and I had to implement a thing called total quality management. And my job as the graduate trainee was to go and implement this across these 800 people in this business, or one arm of the business. And they all said the same thing, which was like, why should we do this? And I, in my naivety, was like, well, it's a good thing. It's a good idea. It's going to work, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But the one thing they all came back with was the same thing, was, well, why should we do it if the management aren't doing it? So they liked what I was trying to tell them, so they could see my conviction of something, they could see the clarity of what we were trying to do. But the one thing that wasn't there was congruence. And congruence, because what they were seeing in terms of behaviors, the way the management was showing up, was not congruent with what I was saying that we wanted. And so when you're not congruent in the way in which you behave compared to what you say, then it's not, one, it's not believable, but two, it's not trustworthy either, because people aren't stupid and they may not be able to articulate, well, what is it I don't like? But they can see that if your behavior isn't in line with what you say, then then you don't mean it. You either don't mean it, or you don't agree with it, or there's something under the surface that they need to mistrust or distrust. I'm never sure. Anyway, so if they don't trust you, again, they're not going to be behind you or with you or holding your hands or buying into your stuff or paying you money, whatever you're trying to do, if you don't have a congruence and alignment with the way you show up, the behaviors you display, with what you say you believe in. Okay, so it's those three things, in my opinion, that will either mean that people will follow you, will buy into your ideas, and will want to be around you and want to work with you in whatever it is you're striving for, or they'll choose not to. They won't believe you, and they won't buy in, and they won't invest, and then they'll go do their own thing because they won't trust you. So remember, you need clarity of your vision. So you need to know it and you need to articulate it. Two different things. Then you need conviction. You need to show that you have the energy for it and that you have the drive. That means you truly believe in it, not just that you have this idea, or you're using the words, but that you truly believe in it and that you think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then congruence. make sure that the way you show up, the behaviors you display are in line with what you've just laid out there, with what it needs to be to make it happen. Because you can't ask them to do it if you're not willing to do it yourself. It's not a case of do as I say, not as I do. It's definitely a do as I do because I'm doing it this way. Come with me. Okay. So clarity, conviction, congruence. And if you would like to know how to be more clear about your vision with your staff, with your teams, with your peers, if you want to learn how to be more congruent and express conviction in a much better way that builds trust and builds relationships in business, then give us a shout, because we have our 12-week Impact Accelerator, which will do exactly that. And you're very welcome to join us on that. And if you want to find out a bit more about it, then just message me and we can have a chat. Okay, so good. It's Julie from Think, Be, Do Leadership. If you want to book in a chat, then you are very welcome to, because here is my link. I'll put it in there. Book a call. There you go, and you can book in a call, and we can see if that's something that's going to help you to grow the trust that people have in you, and grow your impact in business and build the relationships that you need to build so that people come with you, you get more done, you sell more ideas, you get more investment, and you get the results that you need. And it makes you look good. It gets you the job you want, it gets you promoted, or it gets you where you need to be. Okay, have a lovely day. You take care.